Welcome everybody to Rollup 35 training or introduction on level 400 or 200, where we want to show and present you the newest feature and fixes of our solution. We are really excited to get them to you, and let's get started right away. Before we begin, I'd like to point out that if you have any questions, please ask them directly. Just unmute yourself and speak to us directly, or use the chat functionality, or lift your arm, and we will get to you there. So today, this is the follow-up meeting from yesterday's meeting. Yesterday, we had the level 100, where we did a basic introduction to the new features, which we have. Today, we are changing and adapting a bit the view, meaning that we go one step deeper, one step further, and take a look what is under the hood. We will especially focus on that we are showing you a new business process flow, which we showed you on the front end yesterday for absences, and we will show you now the back end as well. That is interesting, especially for you and your customers when it comes down to legacy customers, as you probably did customizations on other business process flows. It's good to see how we did it, that you can still enhance the most of your solution. We have different focus areas in every rollup. In this rollup, we focus on the self-approval leave request process, as well as other things inside the leave process, especially the carried forward. And we enhanced our applicant management, especially the selection of the right applicant at the end. Agendas of today, as yesterday, same agenda, just we are going deeper in there, is that we first will talk and show you the self-approval leave request process, where we increase the automation in absence management module. Moving on to the leave management, the other part which I explained is the carried forward of leave entitlements, that we are connecting now two leave entitlements, one from a previous period to the next period, so that you can always see where this is coming from. The applicant management and the HR management licenses are the next topic, especially on the licenses. We did a lot to help your customers, as we avoid now that you are able to wrongly assign too many licenses and therefore have your company and your instance stopped. And we have a couple of UI changes and meticulous further improvements and features. And in the end, my favorite part is always I'm reading out all solved customer tickets, and you can ask questions about those. We introduced a self-approval leave request process to Rollup 35. While doing so, we had the challenge, or better, our product management had the challenge that we wanted to introduce this while giving customers a chance that their customized business process flow, so their customized defined processes in absence management, continue working with no change at all, but also allow that certain individual employees have the chance to auto-approve their leave request. And when I said certain individuals, it means really yes or no on an employee base. So you are able and capable now to choose each employee if an auto approval process for that person will be assigned, meaning that if he ends in vacation, that it's not going, or vacation request, that it's not going to his supervisor or a substitute for approval, but is automatically approved. This automatically approval has a second part on it, coming to it, that of course they are also able to cancel it. Certain conditions, next page. We also introduced a new field, which is substitute required in case of absences. What does it mean? Well, in the past, we had the case that customers had to choose between two processes. We had one processes which we consider the direct process, one step. Employee requests a leave and submits it, and the supervisor gets a message, hey, please approve that leave. Our second process, which we always had, was the substitute, meaning an employee submits a leave request. He can't submit it directly. He first have to find a substitute. And the next stage is that the substitute has to be approved or has to approve that leave request in order that this gets forwarded to the supervisor for the final approval. Those two processes we always had. And now we are adding a third without interfering with the existing processes. How do we do that? Let's go into the system. I'm right now in an HR manager view in one of our test systems. I'm going to open an employee. So I'm going to employees. I have to load for some time. Paul is my go-to guinea pig. I'm going to leave and absences. I already see all the leave and absences in here. And I should go to the right form, correct? Okay. I'm going now to leave management. That makes more sense. And you see that you have two new buttons in here. You can only tick one or the other. That does make sense. Or you could take a nose. So you could put both to no, which would mean that now normal business process flow would be used, meaning if an employee handles in the leave request, now it would just go with the normal processes. Neither the substitute is required or an approval is required. If you tick the substitute is required and force an employee to look for a substitute, you see that the self-approval is set to no. That does make sense because you can't self-approve if you first have to have approval of a substitute. And the other way around is if you set the absence approval to yes, this one will be hidden. Okay. I'm logged on as the employee Paul Morrison itself as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm entering a leave request. Yeah, I will choose my date in self-service. So let's go for the 20. That's a Sunday. No, let's not choose a Sunday. Let's choose a Thursday and hit submit. Hopefully I don't have a leave request at that day. Let's see. Still saving. Let's give it a refresh. Let's try this again. Test system, not often used. And let's save it as a draft. There you go, it is saved as a draft. Please remember Paul Morrison was set to auto approval, and you will see up here there is a enter leave request and a substitute acceptance in here. Again, we go to Paul Morrison. Had this open last, so there you go. Paul Morrison. Going to the additional personal file. Management. It didn't save. That's a good point. Let's save this one. And then let's refresh this again. Yeah, because now it's asking me for a substitute. I understood that. Yeah. And because it was created while it was set to self and that I need a substitute, it is now forcing me to enter a substitute, which is great, but I wanted actually to show you something different. That's why I will create a new leave request a week earlier. So there you go, 1 week earlier. And I'm hitting save. Okay. So we now have it approved, and you see up here the next stage is approval. It's not substitute approval, it is approval. And if I'm hitting submit now, it will move to the next stage, but the next thing which will be done is that it's automatically approved. So I'm now here and it is automatically approved. Yeah. So how does this work? To understand how this is working is you need the two fields on the additional personal file of that employee. But you also need to understand that we are changing the processes automatically based on those fields. So the business process flow, which is used, is depending on the two fields. We are doing this in the background via a plugin. So if you tick one of those boxes, you will automatically run into one of those. For legacy customer, if you don't use that two fields, your normal business process flow or your customized business process flow will be adapted. So only if one of the fields, one of these two fields, this two is set to yes, only in this case, we handle that on creation, we automatically move it to a different business process flow. Therefore, existing customers, existing business process flow, how customized they may be, are continued to be in use. So I promised you today that we take a look in the business process flow together. So I'm going to processes right now. I'm guessing you all know how to get there. If not, we can help you there on my processes, but I see them right here. So we have the absence processing business process flow. We have the substitute business process flow. Those are our standard. Yeah, one with substitute, one without substitute. And then we have the absence self-approval processing business process flow. And this one is what I wanted to open for you. Yeah, remember this gets automatically started. It is the same thing as if also the part which we automated is the same thing as if you would click manually on switch processes and switch through the processes up here. This is done automatically on creation based on those two fields. So business process flow is loaded. Yeah? And you see there is not much in there. Why should there be a lot in there? Because it's a straight up process. Going in here, and I see there is no filter in there whatsoever. Not a big step. And the second step is directly the leave process. So straightforward business process flow. For those who are not working with business process flow that often, business process flows are the areas up here. And those business process flows are, or the fields which you see in here are the fields which are defined inside the business process flow in the background. More important than the business process flow itself is also, if you're going to dependencies, you will see a lot of dependencies down here. Why? Because in order to make this work, we had to adapt a lot of workflows. Those workflows who are approving absences, for example, they needed to be done, or they needed to be, so if I'm opening, for example, this workflow up here, it's not a workflow, sorry, the workflow solution, a whole solution. If we are opening up this one, we will see that we are now carrying inside the self-approval process on if the employee, which is connected to that very leave request, if this part is set to yes. And if so, we update it. We are updating it accordingly. Note not available in the workflow, and we're updating it. So the whole magic is that we introduce a new business process flow with all the business rules connected, with all the leave requests connected, and we are automatically by plug-in changing or switching the process which is used if one of the two fields is filled. Isn't that great? If you have any questions about this, technically wise or not technically wise, before I move on, I'd like to give you the chance to ask those questions.
Marco.
Hi. It looks like a really cool functionality. I'm just wondering for existing customers who already have an customized process. I saw a lot of dependency you just showed us. And I guess all of those would also have to be customized for existing customers who already have customizations, right?
No.
No? Okay.
Because customers who already have customizations, who want to keep their normal business process flow or their normal absence processes overall, just as they are, they just would hide those two fields on the employee and just leave it to no. Because if you are, or if you set them to no, the new functionality will not trigger. Meaning
Sure.
you don't have the self-approval there.
Sorry, I meant customers who have customized workflows, but still want to use this new functionality. So they already have one, but they don't have, for example, don't have self approval, but want to use it now. So in order to use it, you would have to customize all of them to get it to the same level, right? And then you can use both the new one and your original one.
Yeah, it always depends on the customization they did, but in most cases, and speaking about, I can't think of a case where this is not not the case, but it sure might be. If they want to add the self-approval process as an addition, not as a change of their standard, as an addition, they can add the trigger field on the employee and just use the functionality as well. They just have to know that they would go directly as soon as that employee is handing in their leave request. Yeah. As soon as that happened, it will go to this process which you see right here, not to their customized process.
Sure, but that can also be a very good thing, because then you have now two customizable workflows. So you can even have more than the standard business process flow allows. Now you can have two, because you customize the new functionality. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Having learned that, let's move on to leave and absence. We corrected leave request form opens based on the security role. You might saw this earlier. And we have people on the call who know this very well from the employee, that you are not just going here or go on the self-service form, but you will be, if it's not your own employee, be redirected to the supervisor form. We now have introduced the same thing for leave request, because we had cases that a customer who is an employee, or the person is an employee and a supervisor, and they are handing in a leave request for their own. Of course, they would use the employee form to hand in a leave request from their own. But the Microsoft functionality is that it's always saving the last view for that entity which you used, meaning the next time you open a leave request, it will have the same form, or it will open that in the same form as you last used. So if you are also a supervisor and you get a link with an email that, hey, could you please approve my leave request? You will go in there and you will be on the employee form. And then the question usually comes up, hey, where is my approve? Or why is my approval field locked? It is locked because we opened that, we lock this on the employee form, because on the employee form, you shouldn't be allowed to approve a leave request. By doing so, or by changing this, we now have, it is JavaScript that, according to the user who is looking at this very record, we make sure you're always looking at this record with the right form. Meaning, if you yourself are the employee, that is completely fine. Then you could look at the employee form. If you're not the employee, it happens what you just saw. You will be redirected automatically to the form which you are supposed to use, because you are not the supervisor in this case, or I'm looking at Paul Morrison's leave request not as a supervisor, but as an HR manager. I'm not Paul Morrison, I'm the HR manager. So it's redirected, and therefore always the approval or the supervisor decision approve field is there, open, editable for me, and I don't have to go in and change the form, and I don't have to forget how do I change the form. Yeah. Employees are now able to cancel leave requests. There are two conditions for this. Employees can either cancel leave requests if they submitted the leave request, but the leave request is not approved. Till now, if you as an employee requested leave and it is with your supervisor or your substitute, you had no chance to correct it, to cancel it, whatsoever. You now can. You also can cancel a leave request, and you are only able to cancel it, not modify, not split, cancel approved leave request as an employee if it is in the future. Only then. Yeah. So you can't cancel your leave request for May and get your leave entitlements back. That's not an option. How do you do this? How does it look like? Well, let's go on Paul Morrison. And let's go on the leave management and let's open a leave request which fits that description. And we know there is one because we had one self-approved. There you go. Let's take that one. You see the modified leave request button in here. It was always there from the manager form, and it is now also there on the employee form. And now something kicks in, which I just showed you, that I am redirected. So we added this form on the employee as well, and you are capable on also canceling the leave request in there as well. So if I'm going now on cancel, as an employee, you don't have the option to split or modify it, but you have always the option to cancel. You get asked, why do you want to cancel? Training. Want to get some more training, and I hit next, and this one will be canceled. The employee gets his leave entitlement back. And if you as a normal employee cancel your leave request when it was approved before, of course, your supervisor gets a notification. We send out an email there. It's great. That will help a lot of customers. Okay. Carried forward entitlement will now have a relationship to the original leave entitlement. I have to go here. Okay. I'm now in a different environment, doesn't matter really, because I have different employees in here. Ahmed is here, but I'm focusing on the employee, HRM employee. And in this case, I will take a look in the 2021 leave summary of vacation of this very employee. What you will see is that you have in here a different view now. It will state not writing into the comments or in the into the comment where this is from, but it will give you stated where it originally came from, meaning if it's either from the employment term, so if this came from the employment term, it will state this, or if it was carried forward from last year. There's a third option. If it was manually added, you will see that as well. So let's go in here, and I'm having the vacation leave entitlement for today. And I see origin leave entitlement carried forward from last year. And next to it, I have an entitlement. Let's go to the entitlement. You will see that this entitlement is for the previous year. It was transferred to a new period and it is processed, meaning this is the original entitlement and it has remaining 30 days. When we go one back and be now on the 2021 entitlement, you will see, hey, these are the 30 days. So you have a direct link between leave entitlement and their origin, especially when they have been carried forward. Please imagine that we are talking about overtime, not leave requests. On the leave request, you can calculate it somewhere and see it. But on the overtime, where we have really sometimes 300 leave entitlements a year, and we have them because every day you work or not work or take a overtime, there is an individually entitlement created. If you work 10 hours, you're supposed to work 8 hours. We create 2 hours of overtime entitlement for you. So each day at least has one of the entitlements. If now, by any chance, the customer wants to check, is it really, or did this really happen, that the carried forward was correctly, meaning is those, or are those entitlement, those 30 days in here, are really the remaining days of the previous entitlement, you are now able to check it. Just pull yourself an Excel where you have both in there. And that's something I like to do right now. That's why I'm opening up the advanced find. Have it loaded now. Okay, so I'm on the leave entitlement, and I will do now something where I say, please only show me where the leave entitlement origin. Sorry, how is that field called? Origin of leave entitlement is carried forward from last year. You see there is a different option set. I mentioned earlier manually added, but of course there's also the option, or it can contain the option of leave request who can create or automatically create a leave entitlement. A time account can automatically create a leave entitlement, and a daily summary can automatically create a leave entitlement. And so you always have now the full visibility where this is coming from. But right now I'm only caring about the carried forward from leave entitlement, and I will click OK. And because I want to compare what the amount of the entitlement with the remaining entitlement of the previous year, I will open now the added columns, and I will click add column. And I can go in and see linked entities. For example, I can go and see leave entitlement origin in here. And scroll down, and I will find the remaining. Edit, click OK. And because we have automatic processes which are transferring the entitlements who have remaining days or hours, who are supposed and defined from you or your customer to be transferred to the next period, we are transferring those to the next period, and we are from Rollup 34 on, 34, yeah. Also make sure that if an update happens in the previous period, yeah, if you're changing leave request or adding an entitlement for the previous period, of course the recalculation hits and the carried forward is transferred again. So the remaining of entitlements which are supposed to be carried forward are now having always a right amount in there. To show you that, I'm hitting result, and in the result I will see that yes, the entitlement in here is exactly the remaining days of the previous entitlement. Let's make it extend this column so you see this is remaining on the term. Yeah. Of course, right now we have only three entrances in there, but you can also export them to Excel and you can compare if you have hundreds, not thousands of records. Easy to compare if that what should be transferred is now really transferred. Wasn't there before, but we wanted to give you a chance that you can have this more transparent. One thing I like to mention as well, because we talked about this in the last rollup, but I wanted to bring this up again, that we have now two new fields down here, which is considered for transfer, where we add up all the individual leave entitlements which are set to carry forward to the new or to be processed to the new period. And if this has been processed, yes or no. So there is a Boolean, you see if those 30 days are already transferred to the new period. Yeah. We have some more improvements. I will go over them right fast or quite fast now as we are not showing you something level 200, 400 in there. For example, in the applicant management, we have the applicant rank now also on list and views visible. And before we had them graded as the German school notes, meaning, or school grades, meaning 1 is a perfect grade. Well done. But of course, for applicants internationally, it is a 5-star recruit is definitely the better recruit than a 1-star recruit. That's why we changed it the other way around to adapt to the international language. So the applicant rank of 5 is now really the applicant rank of 5, and we added a cool, even in the view, a cool functionality where you actually have this visible, pretty cool. You should take a look once you change them. On the license assignment parts, we now, when we are deactivating a user, we automatically remove all license assignment. If we wouldn't do that, we had cases where employees no longer are with the company, but still are using a Hubdrive license for their user. Of course, that doesn't make sense. Therefore, we are now deactivating, or we are removing the license assignment as well. So you can have no more license assignment than actually are a user in the system who are supposed to use it. We are not deactivating those license assignment because if you would deactivate a license assignment, it's still counted against the license number, the total number. And if you use more licenses than you have subscribed with us, then the system would shut down, the plugins would throw error and ask you to contact our sales department, because we would believe that you don't have enough or not sufficient licenses for that what you're trying to do. That you don't deactivate this, you can only delete it. We added a prevent workflow there, so a real-time workflow which is throwing an error if you're trying to deactivate a license assignment and not delete it and ask you to delete that. And I like that very, very much, is that the system prevents you now to assign more licenses than you actually have. This is done not in total, but also in, or especially in the categories, meaning we are checking for employees, supervisor, and HR manager licenses, and for the other licenses types as well. And if you're trying to assign a license which you don't have free, where you don't have a free license, then we are also preventing that you can. But in the absence view, we renamed and more leave requests are shown now in a grid on the digital personnel file. fields actually grade were renamed to verified grade. Yep. So on the skills, we had this called actual grade before, but actually we want to call it verified grade to say, hey, this is really verified because it can only be edited by a supervisor or a HR manager. And this makes it more accurate. Leave request with substitute. Once the substitute is selected, all date fields are locked. This is the case now. We had previous cases in the substitute process where you still be able to change the end date, for example. Makes sense for ad hoc absences, but not so much for planned absence. And the employee in terms template weekly hours fields are now getting locked as well. A nice feature which we are added is the supervisor user or system user supervisor field gets updated in the digital personal file of an employee when a system user is assigned to a supervisor. Whew, what does it actually mean? In the past, when you had two employees, one is a supervisor of the other, and you would assign or would fill the supervisor field on one employee with the employee of the other. We have a field in the background where we run a lot of processes on. This is called manager supervisor, manager system user. This field at this point in time never got updated because on the other employees, the system user field is still empty at this point. So what we did is we added a trigger that if you are now adding a system user to an employee, we are checking if that employee is the supervisor of any other employee in that system, and we will update this hidden field which we run the processes on. We improved the applicant score recalculation and employment sample start date in the future is only set to active when that date is reached. Correct. Daily summary is recalculated on deletion of attendance detail. Yeah, in the past, remember you had to deactivate in order to get attendance attendance itself recalculated. Now we are also doing that on deletion. Moving on to my favorite part. I read that out yesterday. So we are always focusing on improving our solution. A big part of improving our solution is adding fixes to or smaller minor improvements, which sometimes have a huge effect on our customers to our product. Therefore, we are very glad and thankful actually that you are helping us with entering tickets to our ticket system, by sending mails to us in support hub. If you did that, you will see that there is a number, you will get an email back and in the subject there is such a number. If you see a number and if you know that number from one of your tickets and you will import Rollup 35, then this is fixed. So good news to you. Let's see what we did fix and improve. Microsoft changed the number of leave requests, which number of not leave requests. I talked about too many leave requests today. The number of requests which can be sent to the system by a plugin, by a web resource, or by any other technical thing. So we had to adapt our absence calendar, which we did. Part of this whole absence calendar improvement is we also got rid of a misalignment of rows in the absence calendar. If you have a huge number of employees and you scroll down, it was possible because the row size or the row height actually wasn't the same on the name column as well as on the columns where the actual leave request was visible for you. Now it's fixed. Remove configurations from settings in the sitemap. The German translations of new HR self-service app was missing, no longer missing. As explained yesterday, we are talking here about our team member app, not about the standard employee self-service app. The HR request fields are locked after choosing a subject. On change of an employee's manager, the access to employment term does not get updated accordingly. BFA integration, for you who don't know what BFA is, Bundesagentur für Arbeit, so the German labor agency. We had an integration there, as they have job boards as well, and they changed the API, and we changed it accordingly, so that now we met the endpoint and we can publish there again. The supervisor recruiting only and HR recruiter role haven't been able to access this if it the only role you had assigned to a user, not the employee. This is now fixed, and then we had carried forward leave entitlement automatically created by the system writes in the description. As you see, we are no longer writing into the description. We are now using a dedicated option set in order to make it to show you where this is coming from. Wrong origin of leave entitlement when a leave entitlement with absence type 6 child was created, no longer created. Admin is able to approve a vacation leave request. No admin without a security role should be able to do so. Unnecessary leave entitlement remain in the system due to the error in the workflow. Delete empty entitlements. Yes, so there are reasons why an entitlement could end up for different updating processes with 0 entitlements, 0 offset, 0 taken, and 0 remaining. The benefit of having that entitlement in this system does not really make sense. So we had a process created that deletes those entitlements. This is no longer necessary, but we are still getting rid of those empty entitlements which give you no benefit. The automatic correction of transferred leave entitlement to New Year not working. It is working. Consider for transfer field only recognize leave entitlements which were set yet not processed instead of leave entitlements. This has been changed as well. Remember the new field which we introduced in Rollup 34 on the leave summary I showed you earlier. On Rollup 34, it only considered the one which haven't been processed. Now it's everything. Update name, date change, management ran into an error due to the maximum length of the name field being too short. No, it's no longer too short. Leave entitlement could not be added with a dialog button. Yes, we had some problems there. Fixed it. Export to Excel does not work. It does work. Microsoft Core HR, so the administration of Dynamics 365 HR, that module, the employee creation based on an applicant did not work. Reason was that it didn't have the primary work location in the contract. It does now work, and therefore we don't have a problem with synchronous and asynchronous processes any longer. And the attendance detail is created with flag correction required when no shift was specified. We are now creating this correction required again. Table permission missing in recruiting portal. Yes, standard solution. We added this permission vacancy when choosing validate for BFA. The fields marked as mandatory are not complete. We had missed some mandatory fields. Also, we had to adapt this as the APA did change over time, and now we did this. Please, as a partner, we ask you to go to the Partner Center and download the Rollup 35RC and give us feedback. Please give us feedback as soon as possible directly to rolluptickets@hubdrive.com. Main reason is we are planning on publishing Rollup 35 end of November. So we are not that far away of publishing Rollup 35, which is good. We wanted not to do it in December. November is a good thing. If you have any product ideas, the mail address to add or to send them through is different. So please go and send them to productideas@hubdrive.com. It's routed directly to our product management. And if they receive that email, you can be sure that you hear back from them over time, as they will go through that list and through all list to prioritize for every new roll-up. So at least every 3 months we will go through there. If you have any questions, now would be the perfect timing. Okay, it appears that is not the case. Well, thank you everyone, and thank you everyone for working on this roll-up and making this presentation happen. Thank you, Vera, and see you around. Thank you.